First of all, thank you all so much for coming. I feel like I need to move you up, but I'm not going to, don't worry. You can stay, you can stay. Thank you very much for coming. My name's Catherine McCarthy, and I'm the Chief Exec of an organisation called Medical Aid Films that produces films for frontline health workers in Africa. And as you know, this session is about the work of filmmakers and producers who are using film to make a difference in some of the poorest and most remote countries in the world. And we have an absolute feast of wonderful content today to share with you, from the extraordinary drama in Ethiopia, which is empowering millions of girls, to innovative participatory filmmaking and inspired pedal-powered cinema in Malawi. And of course, the beautiful documentaries produced by guerrilla filmmakers who live and work in sub-Saharan Africa.
In their tea shop to
so that's what's coming.
By the talk show.
But first, to introduce our panel to you, on my left is Marissa Lestrade, a writer and producer who's worked most recently with the Nike Foundation, developing radio drama and talk show in Ethiopia for girls, and Joseph Fitchett, who is director of the Global Health Film Initiative, which is an innovative partnership between the Gates Foundation and the Royal Society of Medicine. And he's going to talk about how film can be used to generate discussion and change within global health. And then we've got George Saltz, who is a producer and distributor at Purple Films Productions, working in Africa and Asia to produce educational dramas and docs, and distributing in a range of innovative ways. And finally, at the end, we've got Alicia and Clara, who are both filmmakers from the production company What Took You So Long. And they're part of a team of guerrilla filmmakers who work with communities in over 100 countries around the world. So I think we've got a good panel for you today. So this morning, we're going to concentrate on showing some very concrete examples of work. And I've asked people to think about how they feel the work is innovating and what the particular challenges are that they have to face. And I've asked each person to say a little bit about what they do and to show a clip. And I'm going to be very strict and keep them to no longer than 10 minutes of time. So off we go. Marissa, the floor is yours.
Okay, so I'm a consultant with Girl Hub Ethiopia. This on screen here is called Yenya. It's actually an Amharic script which says Yenya, which means hours. About 4 years ago, we had a concept to develop a radio drama, a radio talk show with a big music element, which we have now developed and is currently being broadcast. We're currently on Series 5. Series 6 is being written, and we've got another 3 years signed off. The idea is to empower teenage girls through media, these particular platforms. The theory behind it is that if you empower teenage girls, they grow into women that then are empowered, empower their communities, empower their children, and it sort of has a multiplier effect, generation on generation, in a way that boys, men, women sort of would do differently. So our target is teenage girls, although now we're finding sort of everybody is listening to it and enjoying it. The radio drama is all about producing high-quality entertainment, but with social issues bubbling along underneath. We use behaviour change methodology and sort of role modelling in that. The talk show picks up on the issues in the drama and uses real-life stories to pick those out and discuss them. And then the music is really about pushing out positive, empowering messages about girls into kind of society in a way that really hasn't been done before, certainly in Ethiopia. It's reaching 8 million people at the moment, which is fantastic, and the whole thing has sort of surpassed our wildest dreams, really, when we first started. So these are our characters from the show. They're 5 girls. They've been developed to represent all Ethiopian girls. They're very much archetypes. So the hope is that every Ethiopian girl can relate to something within these 5 characters. they come together in the drama to sing and express their sort of hopes and dreams and challenges, and then that music lives separately as a separate strand and goes out to the population. My responsibility was to develop the creative concept for the drama and to do the writing of the series. So we've created a really interesting sort of unique way of writing where we've merged script writing, industry script writing, entertainment techniques with behaviour change methodology to create something that is quite unique. So it's massively entertaining, but it really has lots and lots of very real life situations and challenges that girls face running through it. I suppose what I wanted to talk to you about is what is Yenye, but also the impact that we've had. So if I move on to that, I think the best thing is to tell you a couple of stories. One of our characters in the drama is a street kid. She ran away from an early marriage, and she now lives on the streets, and sort of we explore her life and what all of that means. And we decided, I think in series 3, to have her start her own business, so that we could look at the economic empowerment of girls and women. And the idea was to really say you don't need a huge amount of money or extra training to start your own business. You look at what your strengths are, what your resources are, and you come up with something. So we took this character on this journey through 13 episodes, so that by the end of it, she has a sustainable business that's giving her a very small income, which gives her a little bit of stability. So we then came across a group of women in a rural area who were listening to the drama and the talk show, and heard this story and were inspired to start their own business through listening to this story. Which, when I heard that, I was amazed, and I just thought that is the most fantastic thing. And they decided to, so they looked at their strengths, they looked at their resources, and they decided to start a tea shop. So they had a little space that they had access to. One of them cooked the food, one of them made the tea and what have you. And they've created a sustainable income for themselves. I wanted to show you a little clip of these ladies and then sort of look at what has come out of that tea shop. So I think we're going to play a clip. That brings up so many things for me. So one, they've created a business that's sustainable. Two, it's become a place where they congregate to listen to the show and, most importantly, discuss the issues that are being brought up in the show, which, you know, the stories that came out of that were that they're now communicating with their children in a way that they weren't before. So they're listening to the show and they're hearing the sort of hopes and dreams and fears and challenges of the young people, and realizing that actually they need to talk to them and discuss issues with them. And as a result of that, they've decided not to marry off their girls early, which is a huge issue in various cultures. That lead to real problems. You know, once you go down the early marriage route, you get into all kinds of health issues and early pregnancy issues and sort of death during childbirth. And so for them to have decided not to do that is a massive, massive achievement. And I think it shows how media and things can really bring about changes, quite fundamental changes that are quite deeply rooted in communities, but also how soft skills plays a massive part. So on the one hand, you have a behaviour change, you know, goal like parents decide not to marry their children early, but then you have all of the sort of trust and the confidence and self-efficacy that comes out of that as well. So this is the poster for Series 5. As I said earlier, we target teenage girls, but we find that everybody is listening to it. This is a photo of some boys at one of our outreach events. We've taken what we've learnt from the radio drama, which runs, it's the sort of half-hour episodes, Talk shows also half-hour episodes, and we've decided to, we did a movie special to see whether it translates onto a sort of one-off movie, because the radio drama runs over a span and you can kind of follow characters on a journey all the way through from point A to point B. So we created a 1 hour sort of television special, which I have a clip of the trailer to show you. So I think for us in our media landscape, this type of thing is quite a common thing to see, but we found that in Ethiopia there isn't much for teenagers. You sort of go from being a child to an adult with very little in between. So creating this type of brand has been really, really new and innovative, and kind of, you know, there's not much else in the field over there, and having sort of this behaviour change running through it then also adds to this kind of snowball effect, really, that we've seen in the country, and people have really, really taken it on. So I just wanted to end with a few quotes that we gathered from the film screenings. So we screened the films, we sent out mobile screens into quite rural areas, and actually screened it to 120,000 people in quite a short space of time. And we gathered some quotes. This one, the sort of highlighted one, I think is really nice. The girls sticking together helped Mimi to challenge her husband. I have a daughter who's 16, and I used to discourage her from having friends as I thought they may be a bad influence on her. This film made me change my mind. I'll encourage her to have friends instead. So we found that in Ethiopia, girls don't really have friends. And if you think about what your friendship network means to you, if I try and think about my life without any friends, a lot of girls say they don't have a single friend. They have a lot, you know, there's a lot of girls work very, very hard in Ethiopia. They sort of look after the house, the family, siblings, grandparents, parents, and if they can, they go to schools. They have to fit their schoolwork around a very sort of long day, quite often doing homework once everyone else has gone to bed. They're the first to get up. So if they have that type of routine, they're actually quite isolated. And so one of the things we wanted to do was show friendship and the benefits of friendship groups, and again, the soft skills that brings. So, you know, what runs through everything that we do is sort of friendship and trust, and sort of when to keep secrets, when not to keep secrets, all of those types of things. So that's it, really. That's Yenya, and that's the impact that we've had.
Thank you. That's fantastic. Thank you. Amazing. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to hang on to your questions, because there'll be a chance. Don't forget them. There'll be a chance at the end. I'm going to hand over now to Joseph, who's going to talk about global films from a slightly different perspective. So over to you.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to probably say some thank yous now as well, because I know that the AV team need to swap on to some of the PDF slides. So thank you, Catherine, thank you, Josie, and thank you, DocFest. And here are the slides. So my name is Joe. I'm Joe Fitchett. I'm currently a doctor at St Thomas's Hospital in London and a public health fellow, and not from a film or production background. And I'll tell you a bit about our initiative, which is the Global Health Film Initiative, which brought together health advocates and filmmakers together for the last 2 years. We have a few main aims: film and media as a catalyst for discussion and change, which is something that we really saw the huge impact and power that media can have on health, and the amazing content which people around this table, for example, have contributed to, which are unheard of in the sphere of health, which could really be used as advocacy tools. So we really want to bring film and media into the core of global health and create a forum for filmmakers, journalists, and health advocates, people in this room, for instance, to come together and create new content, identify all the gaps that we've seen and plug those gaps. I'll just start a little bit historically. We were a group of health advocates and filmmakers. We started screening films such as this one, The Greatest Silence by Lisa Jackson. It's about rape in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And we had an incredible gynecologist called Denis Mukwege, who was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize and lost to Obama. We thought that was quite a travesty, and I urge you to look him up. And this was just bringing a film which did the tours of festivals, but was unheard of in the realm of health. And we showed it to a group in London. And this was self-selected audience, but it just resonated and touched so many people. And I'm here representing a group of about 12 people, including Jerry McHugh and Lalita, who are here in the audience. And 4 of them, including filmmaker Millie Harvey, from this film created a charity, Congo Connect, with some positive stories and photography and art and media about the region, which was shown in multiple countries. And this is when we really saw the potential that film might have for health. A couple of other examples where we screened in the early days, Call Me Kuchu, about LGBT rights in Uganda and the health implications of these, and the implications that doctors and nurses were facing, jail sentences if they didn't report on people they came across in their treatment. And the brilliant How to Survive a Plague about HIV activism and capturing that essence of patient rights in the 90s. Anyway, where are we now? So we have a couple of core activities. One is the Global Health Film Lab. This is where we are bringing together with the brilliant What Took You So Long, I'm looking over down to my side over there, to train health advocates in media literacy, because, to be honest with you, we don't have any media literacy. Many of us don't see the potential that film and media can have. We're hoping we can change that here with the lab in London, but also people working in certain countries, we're encouraging them to work as apprentices with people like those who are sat around this table to learn how to make film and how to incorporate film and media into their work. This might be a good time to play a 2-minute clip, a very brief introduction to which it's about participatory media exploring HIV self-testing. It's by filmmaker Millie Harvey, and this is part of the work we wish to do, bringing filmmakers and global health advocates together. So that ended a bit earlier than I anticipated. So let me tell you a bit more about why that was done and how it was done. This is following the world's largest HIV self-testing trial, and its impact on society and on science is going to be unraveling as we speak, but people aren't discussing it. People are rightfully worried about gender violence. What happens when you do a self-test at home? It's positive. How do you get linked into care? How do you get linked into prevention, counselling? Will your partner be abusive to you? These are all very instinctual reactions that are generated by the concept of HIV self-testing. But we're absolutely delighted that the science behind it shows that people are actually empowered. There hasn't been the gender violence that people were concerned about. And people partly from this exercise have talked about the power of getting a no, the power of saying, no, I'm not positive. And that's been amazing because the whole research beforehand, shaped from the science, was such that we wanted to link people who were positive into care. But the filmmaking and participatory media from people discussing with their communities has shown that one of our outcomes should actually be people who get a no and they can get on with their life and they feel empowered. They can go back to school, they can look after their families, they can carry on working. And that's part of the two-way cycle we would like to encourage. So that film has directly impacted on the research which is being rolled out at the moment in Malawi, Zimbabwe and Zambia. And we're delighted that the Wellcome Trust will be following us on that journey, doing community screenings, doing radio talk shows, call-ins, and I think we should also do text-ins. I hadn't thought about that. So something on Ethiopia text-ins would be brilliant. And go beyond just doing screenings, for example, in London, in Sheffield, in New York, and try and really bridge the gap with that kind of work. That brings us on to a festival that we're hosting this year, the first Global Health Film Festival in London. If you're interested in health, in development, in human rights, please consider submitting, please consider joining. We've got some highlights for you. We'll be screening The Divide, as it's called, which is actually being shown here tomorrow on Wednesday. Body Team 12 by Riot Films, about Ebola. Ping Pong, which is about, I won't spoil it, I'm sure you've seen it, but we'll be focusing our discussion on healthy aging. And that Sugar film, again, on the impact of corporations on health, and many more. We hope we'll use it as an immersive experience with some workshops in the pipeline to bring together people who are established filmmakers with health advocates. If I just draw your attention to the last lab and workshop, which is virtual reality and social impact. This is the Oculus Rift. I'm sure many of you have seen it. And some of the work by Chris Milk, Clouds over Sidra. When we were introduced to this concept, we really thought global health should learn from virtual reality and how things are moving at the moment. On a practical level, it would be an immersive way of, for example, training staff into, let's say, working in Ebola treatment camps without having to do training days in London, for example, and then just being chucked right into an environment you've never seen before. And also, just when you're working with people, having that real empathy, that real connection, that real transportation into a different place. And we think there's a lot of potential with virtual reality for health and development. And we'll be hosting a development award and a crossover lab around that issue from the festival. I encourage you to contribute. Google Cardboard might be perhaps the more affordable version of the Oculus Rift. If you haven't seen this, maybe download one and create yourself a Google Cardboard. And where we're going, hopefully, in the future is we would love to measure and map the impact of media in health. There is some data on it, but we'd like to see more. So from the festival, for the more techie savvy, those who like technology and all these gadgets, we'll be doing some eye tracking, we'll be doing some physiology, we'll be doing some cycling, and we'll see what the impact of health is. So, and also the directorship. So the director might play something in a certain film, but if you're not looking at it because of certain ways, your message might not be absorbed, and how that affects the brain is something we're particularly interested in. And this is some research. Can mass media interventions reduce child mortality? It seems to. And that's an amazing story if it's true. They're gathering data at the moment in Burkina Faso. It's something we'll be watching very closely, and which elevates the kind of work that filmmakers and producers are doing, that you can really have a tangible and cost-effective benefit on health. So that's me. Thank you for your time. I hope I've stuck to 10. I'm looking over there. Please check our website, and please feel free to get in touch. And Lalita, Jerry, and Julia Dar, who are all part of the group, are here in the room. Please come and talk to us.
Thank you. Thank you. So over to you, George. I guess you're coming at this from a slightly different direction, so looking forward to hearing about the pedal-powered cinemas, etc. in Malawi.
Okay. Hi, yeah, thank you first to Catherine and to Medical Aid Films for inviting us here, and it's great to be part of this panel and just see all of these ideas and the scale that people are doing things. Yeah, we're approaching this from a much smaller scale, I guess, but maybe it'll give you some insights from a different perspective. So yeah, my name's George Salt. I'm representing Purple Field Productions, which is a very small Somerset-based charity, but they've been making films for the last 10 years in Asia and in Africa. The main aim of those films is really to stimulate discussion about real day-to-day social issues within the communities that are most affected by them. The films are all made with local communities, in local languages, presenting local everyday stories and characters. And where possible, PFP have managed to get their films onto TV and DVD. But what about, those communities and those areas that don't have TV, don't have electricity, those families that don't have access to TVs, and perhaps those people and places where messages and discussions are needed most? And that's when they started thinking about different distribution methods. And last year, I went to Malawi as UK representative on a 6-week tour of the country, taking a pedal power kit. And we went with 2 Malawi guys, and the 3 of us just went round the country with 4 PFP films, into communities to just get them to watch the films and then discuss the films. We showed them in a variety of different parts of the country. We showed some during the daytime, some at night, usually on football pitches. Invariably, we'd show up and people wouldn't know that there was a screening going on, and so we'd have to make a lot of noise, usually just, play some music, get on the microphone, and eventually people would come. And over those 6 weeks, we managed to do 40 screenings and screen to 10,000 people, which was, for the budget and the scale of Purple Field Productions, was huge. It way surpassed what we were aiming for. And the 4 films that we showed, there were 2 documentaries, one about agricultural development and how farmers can deal with changing economic or agricultural climates in areas of increasing drought. There was also a documentary about people talking openly and honestly and with humor about living with HIV, which is a taboo subject, something that isn't often talked about, and yet here were people talking about it naturally and openly. And then we also had 2 dramas that we'd shown. And these, again, were made with local communities, with local scriptwriters, with local actors, in the local language of Chichewa. And so there was one drama that was aimed specifically at children and teenagers, again, for a similar kind of reason that young girls in Ethiopia are targeted, I think, by your radio thing, that it can empower the children to grow up to be empowered adults. And this was, the focus of the film was on social and cultural stigma surrounding AIDS and HIV. And then the other drama was really for all ages and looked at rural life in Malawi in the face of economic, environmental and social change, and a kind of EastEnders style of, looking at what's going on and everyday issues. So those were the 4 films that I took out, and we took the pedal power kit. And what I'll do is, hopefully we've got a little kit lined up, a clip lined up. It's just a 2-minute clip that gives you an idea of how those 6 weeks went. The first minute or so just shows the kit being set up and how we got to an area and started making some noise, getting people to come. The second little bit is a short clip of an actual screening in process. And the last one is about the discussion that took place after. Cool. I was limited to 2 minutes, so that's what you get. But you saw there just a glimpse of, people engaging with the film. And what was great, as a non-Chichewa speaking observer, is that over those 40 screenings, you could tell, within the first 5 minutes that an audience was engaged with the film. And from those, as soon as there was, someone eating some ugali or just like a local action taking place, they were kind of transfixed on the film. And that happened at every single screening. And, even though people are there kind of shouting out during it, it's because they're engaged with it. They would follow it all. And then afterwards, you see just a tiny little clip of post-screening discussion. And that, for me, I think Catherine was asking, what I feel is innovative about the project that we did. I came into this project thinking, pedal power, that'll be cool. And going around Malawi for 6 weeks would be a good experience. But I came away really convinced of the power of film as a way of stimulating important discussions, debates that might not otherwise happen. And it was amazing because those discussions, almost every audience, everyone would stay, or the vast majority of people would stay, actively wanting to talk about the characters, the storyline, and then relating to it personally and drawing kind of personal parallels to their lives and their community. And then they would go on to talk about action points. They would suggest their own kind of solutions for issues. And that really is the key to PFP's approach, I think. It's not going in saying, oh, we know there's a problem and this is how to do it, this is how you should solve it, but more, here's a situation, an opportunity for you to discuss a situation, debate it, and come up kind of with your own solutions, suggestions, and whatever. And I'm convinced that that's down to the way in which PFP actually approach their filmmaking. And they do that meticulously researching the people, the place, and the issues where they'll be filming. So they'll work with NGOs and charities that are based within each country or each area. So properly research the issue. They won't align themselves with one charity or one approach. It's getting information from everywhere. They assume an intelligence in their audience, which is obvious but rare, it seems. And then they just make well-crafted, entertaining films. And then, of course, just making sure that as many people as possible get to see them and to talk about them. Yeah, I think that the challenge is also, I mean, what's innovative, what's strong about PFP's approach is also what makes it a bit of a challenge to find funding and to make it bigger, which is why it's interesting to be here, because I think a lot of people do want to see that short-term approach. You know, you want to be able to show a film that makes quick changes, that finds quick solutions. I mean, that's an easier sell. But here, it's a long-term approach. It's about just getting more people to discuss issues, and that's it. And therefore, obviously, if you can encourage more people to talk about issues that aren't normally talked about, that's the long-term kind of development and approach there. I think, I mean, that there are obviously lots of different areas where you can kind of take it, and maybe that will come up in the discussions, the follow-up steps and how the NGOs that work in the area, and also working with local talents, which is an interesting area to look at, I think. And I'm also interested to hear different distribution techniques from the people here, like ways of engaging with audiences. Have I run over my 10 minutes?
Probably, yes.
Yeah, probably. Okay.
Fantastic.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So finally over to our guerrilla filmmakers at the end to tell you about their work, and again coming at the subject from quite a different perspective. So I'll hand over to you guys now.
Thank you so much for inviting us and having us. It's been a really wonderful festival. We are coming at this from a different angle, I guess, really behind the lens and moving around. Our production company is called What Took You So Long. We are guerrilla filmmakers. In that way, we live a sort of guerrilla lifestyle, which we'll go into a little bit later. We live globally. We're an international team. We're about a dozen people and expanding into more local, into the areas that we're working in. We don't have an office. We're mobile. We're doing everything virtually. We do work that we're passionate about. We are attracted to things, and we just gravitate toward them. In this way, we're a bit raw, disruptive, and just sort of not taking this traditional, always a traditional approach, but thinking outside of the box. In this way, we are a team that is not all coming from a filmmaking background. We're coming from all different types of backgrounds, and we'll get into that more later. But we do work we're passionate about, and we also do client-based work, such as for medical aid films, the UNDP, Marie Stopes, IDEO.org, Fusion TV. We also try to do creative work when we can. And our innovation comes more from, it comes from the way that we work, and that we are trying to bring a very positive sort of visual grammar to the development field in general. Instead of making videos that are very sad and full of these images that make people want to give money out of some kind of pity, or we are more looking for these positive stories, but told in short ways. So we want to show our video now, and then we'll talk more about it. So this was for a big NGO, Hand in Hand International, and the way that we made this was, the way that we make everything is we carry everything on our backs. We have portable jibs, portable sliders, and we live with the people that we work with.
Yeah, we want to talk more about this. We focus a lot on building relationships with people that we're filming, with our characters. So we start from the pre-production. We choose a character that will be good for the movie, and a character that is open to maybe having us in their home. So we like to have breakfast with them and dinner and live with them. And we build a bond, and we build a trust that then allows us to have access to different places, have access to different people. We're very enthusiastic about things. We like to engage people. We get on a car, we call a taxi, we get on a car, and we want that driver to find, we want to explain to him what we do, why we're doing it this way, and where we're going, and where we come from, because we want, we work with interaction, and something fabulous can come out from that interaction. We adapt. Wherever we go, we think it's important to adapt where you are. So we are big fans of camel milk. We drink Bedouin tea. We like to taste local food and get a sense of how people are living there. And all of those things then have result in an output that is, as real as we can make it look. Right now we're partnering with local filmmakers in 2 places, in Hargeisa, in Somaliland, and in Nairobi we're working with Sudanese filmmakers. It's an interesting process because there are no set systems or formulas to how to go and train. It's the same approach as when we are doing films. We spend time with them. We try to get an idea of how they film, how they want to film, what are their difficulties, and then together in this collaboration we work and we figure out how to move forward and how to make the editing workflow work, or the whole production process, from the scripting to post-producing to platforms where they're going to be showing these videos. So we adapt.
Yeah, basically we don't come in with so many preconceived notions, or we have, of course, some scripting and some ideas, but we really try to work and collaborate together and come up with the solutions as a team with the people that we're working with, whether that's clients or the Sudanese filmmakers and the people in Hargeisa. We're not there to impose what we think a film looks like, or we are there to experiment and try new things, try different ways of storytelling, all the while, of course, taking a sort of story character positive approach to that storytelling, and just making our team as big as we can. Everyone is like family. We're coming in, and in this way, in this nomadic lifestyle, this guerrilla lifestyle, it's not that we're coming in a big white car and coming out with our film equipment, you know, taking some shots and going back in the car, like a lot of development videos can be made, or even flying in from very far. We might be basing ourselves in Kenya for a couple months, take the bus to Tanzania, stay there a week before the production starts, getting to know people without our cameras, you know, just hanging out, having tea, drinking camel milk, getting to know the local customs, local taxi drivers, the way to do everything, and of course also collaborating with Tanzanians, you know, finding the local sort of system. We do social media, tweeting, Facebook. We join parties or join collectives that are already existing and try to work as much as we can with those existing systems. And then within that, of course, experiment and figure out new ways of telling these stories that need to be told from remote areas that a lot of people aren't willing to go, such as Mogadishu. We've spent a lot of time in Somalia and Liberia in finding these ways of telling the stories with these characters and building them. I mean, we don't just go to a place and never come back. We go to places over and over. We're not basing ourselves in the U.S. or in London. You know, we're basing ourselves where we work as well. And in this way, we get a lot of people who young people who want to join us, and that is a bit how we've grown. In the beginning, we were a few people doing projects that we were passionate about, such as camel milk, exploring the story as you would a creative documentary, and then realizing that we can tell these stories together and using also local television stations or local distribution models, such as projection. One of our earlier projects was in Papua New Guinea, and we went there with I mean, this is where we really figured out how to do what we do. We went there thinking, oh, we're going to film unsung heroes and untold stories about unsung heroes. Tagline, right? And we found that it was very difficult to find like NGOs or social businesses that were doing positive work, because people, the people we were working with, living with, and talking to said that there's a lot of corruption going on, and we had to look deeper and find something that really was a story that could be told. So we found betel nuts, the thing that you chew and spit, and it's like coffee or mate, and we started making these films, and then we came back and we did a sort of tour projection of what we were doing, and we got feedback from people. What is working in these films? What is not working? What should we be telling? And that's sort of the journey we went on, and where we were a smaller group of people, and now we are a dozen people expanding and working and open to kind of where every day takes us. You know, what will we do next? We are excited and ready to try new things.
Thank you very much. That's a good note to end on. I'm just going to add to that, actually, and show a final clip or a very short film. And it's something that What Took You So Long produced for my company. So I thought it would be a good connection and a good way to explain the work that I'm involved in as well. So I work for an organisation that produces film and animation for the training of health workers in low resource settings. And for the last couple of years, we've been involved in a project in Somaliland where we've been working with the nurses and midwives there who use film in their training. And What Took You So Long, we wanted a promo about our work. So we wanted a film that told our story through the eyes of the people that were using our films. And they shot the film for us in Somaliland. So I'm just going to play that because I thought it was a good way of showing what you did. Okay, thank you, everyone. I'm going to open it up to questions here because I'm sure people have things they want to ask or more information about certain things. So I'm sort of opening it up. Yeah.
My question is about, you know, when you're making movies about empowering women, and were there any like males who were against this, and did you struggle in the community, or how does the PR work behind it works, basically?
Great moustache, by the way. The thrust of it is to provide entertainment. So if it's entertaining enough, everybody will enjoy it. So we haven't, that I know of, had any real sort of conflict with men in the communities because they are engaged in just a good drama. That at the end of it makes them start to think about some of the things that they've seen. But the issues and the behaviour change is so embedded into the drama that actually they don't necessarily know that they're looking at something that has behaviour change through it. They're just looking at something that they're engaged in, that they really enjoy, but happens to have a sort of different perspective on girls and women. Sort of reframes girls and women. So, not that I know of, no.
Has your research thrown up any issues around men's lack of support?
It's so difficult because a lot of the issues affecting women have to do with men and men's behaviour, so domestic violence and things like that. So we really look at what can women do for themselves, what can women empower, because we can't affect change in everybody, and you sort of have to be very clear about what you can affect and what you can't affect. So we pick things that, first of all, women can empower themselves through, and as a result of that, then has a knock-on effect in the community. So we have looked at male behaviour and things like that, but so one of our Series 5 is about parents not marrying off children early. And the behaviour change goal was on the father, because girls actually don't have a voice in the situation. So we thought there's no point in putting the behaviour change goal on the girl, because actually they can say as much as they want, you know, about it, but actually unless the father and the community listen to them, then it's not going to change. So we did do the sort of look at the father and the male community leader, and it'll be interesting to hear what comes out from that. It's currently being broadcast, so we'll see. We've got sort of measurement in place and stuff like that, and I'm looking forward to kind of hearing what the perspective is on the men that see it and listen to it and stuff.
Okay, lots of questions. I know there was someone down the back, and then I'll come to you and you. Yes.
So hello. My name's Damo, and I have a question for you just regarding the radio documentary. I think you may have already answered my question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So I was going to ask if there are plans to do a different show catered towards like a more male audience. But from what you were just saying, are you saying that you are like doing a strand that's more geared towards not only just the females, the key kind of female characters, but also, you know, fathers and male characters around that, or?
I think it's always targeted at girls, but within that you have to kind of encompass everybody. So it really depends on what we're trying to achieve with that particular sort of behaviour change. With this one, it's early marriage, and that definitely includes sort of wider community and men. But generally, it all starts with the girl, and we look at, okay, what is going to empower girls to do with these other particular issues, and then you sort of dissect that and say, okay, well, who are the major players within this? How can we empower girls? Most of the time it is the girls themselves, but other times it's other members of the community. Another example would be we had a storyline. Well, we wanted to look at girls and parents communicating more effectively with each other. And we also did a lot of research around girls' lives and what happens in communities, and we know that sexual harassment is a major, major issue, which we felt like we wanted to deal with. And so we thought, okay, when sexual harassment or rape happens, quite often parents are the last people that girls tell, because they are going to assume it was the girl's fault. And so they just keep it a secret. So we thought, okay, well, why don't we connect those two? So we came up with a storyline of one of our characters who's very, very studious, is sexually harassed in a school setting by a teacher. And we wanted her to communicate that to her family, to her father in particular, and look at what it means to communicate serious issues to your parents. And so we took the character on a journey of, it starts with, where do you get the confidence to do that? Who can you go to for help? Where can you seek information? What do you perceive the rewards and the consequences to be of that action? So we take her to that stage, and eventually she did communicate it to her father, and he did exactly what happens in reality. He blamed her. He, didn't take on the issue. So the actual behaviour change journey was on him, on how he is going to trust his daughter and take things further, because it's not going to stop until he takes it on and believes her and trusts her and goes to the school. So where I'm, in a very long-winded way, going with this, we then decided in our following series to look at what the school then does, because it's all very well the girl telling the father believing her, taking it to the school then has to act. So then we did a lot of research around what schools can do. So we start with the girl, but then we really look at how everybody else is involved in that process.
Cool.
Okay, thank you. And there was one question, and then Susie, I'll come to you. One question behind you.
Hi, yeah, my question was you answered some of those things. It's really interesting, because what usually happens is a bit what Alicia was saying before. More filmmakers usually go to these places, take nice or sad pictures, and then come back. And it feels a lot like a new form of colonialism, when you grab something that you take profit for. And what's very interesting in this kind of projects is seeing ways of making sure that the message is propagated, and that it's going to be some sort of continuity for now from the responsibility of maybe the communities. So in your project, you're saying the girl takes the decision to talk to her father, but what if this is happening to a girl and her father is still not responding to that? In your program, in your project, have you ensured different ways that girls and women, maybe men, can access to counseling? Is that built in the project?
Well, it's you have to take into consideration the locations where the shows go out. Our show goes out in Amhara, which is Addis, some other big cities, but really rural places. And, if a show goes out here, quite often, for example, EastEnders, if there's a domestic violence storyline afterwards, it will say, if you're affected by these issues, please call this number. There aren't the services there. So, so we have to really think, okay, what is realistic in these locations? There's no point in saying to people, go and find counselling. There isn't any. So it's within the drama, really embedding in there, what is realistic for people in very rural areas, for example. What can they do? And quite often it's saying to girls, okay, who are your trusted adults? Identify trusted adults. There might be teachers, they may be parents of other friends, they may be your parents, they may be the local shopkeeper, and really use them as your support network. That's one option, and so you sort of look at what are the realistic options within settings, and then you model that through the drama.
Maybe in the outreach Because I guess that will be part of, if you build trust in the community around your show.
Yeah, I think a lot of the this show is driven very much by branding and communications. So what we wanted to do is to create a show that is trusted. The show is the friend, it is the voice, it is the sort of educator. So in areas where there aren't services, they can go to the show and really sort of gain that from the show itself.
Okay, there was one more question here, then I'll come to you, and then I'll come to you. Okay.
Following on from this discussion, and there's so much to talk about with your work, which is fabulous, but this is a documentary festival, and what you're achieving most from, can't be judgmental, but it seems like you're achieving a huge amount using drama. And you can not just portray the norm and the bad things that happen, but you can model good behaviour in a way that really invites discussion by the audience amongst themselves. As you say, with EastEnders, you can have a support line or something. But I love what you're doing, but because there's probably a room full of other documentary filmmakers, I'd love to know from the panel and all of you what you think the strengths and weaknesses are, or the reasons to go for drama rather than documentary. Or I just think it's fascinating that this has come up in this forum. But congratulations.
Who wants to answer that? Yes,
I can say
George.
A quick bit. In our experience, when I went round Malawi, we were showing a couple of documentaries and a couple of dramas, and I think our approach to the dramas is very similar to the radio show in that they are everyday situations, everyday characters, everyday reactions to characters and actions that people can then, that they're entertained by, but then they properly, personally connect to them. And what we found right from the beginning was if we put on a documentary, people responded they were far more engaged with the drama, like the characters that were playing out everyday situations, than someone, despite talking openly and honestly, they were engaged with scenarios, with situations, with characters. I mean, a lot of what Marissa's saying kind of resonates with the way in which communities connected with characters and storylines, but then personally identified with them and drew them out to within their community, so that they would also engage with that problem and suggest a solution themselves. So, yeah, I mean, we found always we would choose the drama over the documentary to screen it.
I think there's a place for both as well, because I think what you've found and what we've found is that it acts as a trigger point for discussing things. So be that through documentary or through drama, people are able to discuss things that they wouldn't have discussed before. We have a drama, but another element is our talk show, which is non-drama, and it picks out the issues from the drama, which is it's sort of a safe space, because you're not actually talking about particular people and yourself, you're talking about the characters. And but there is real strength in looking at real life stories, and the sense that you're not the only person going through something. Just by voicing it, be through drama or documentary, that's really empowering in itself, I think.
And I think even in the work we do, when there's sort of complex factual information that you have to get across, we're always looking for the best way to do that and how to make it more story-driven. And often we're asked by the organisations we work with, do a drama or make it funny or make it relevant. So we're always trying to find the best way to, the most appropriate format for kind of engaging communities with the information and getting it across in the best possible way. And through stories is really helps us do that too. Should we? I know there's a few more. There was someone there. Yes, you go. And then I'll come to you.
Mine was quite cool, so I think I might ask it after if it's less interesting to the group.
Okay.
I'm Arjun. I'm a documentary filmmaker based in Kenya, where I'm born and brought up. And it's really nice just to be with all of you, because I feel like I'm meeting people in the same field that I just wouldn't be connected to if I didn't come here. I'm really curious about Yegna and how the Ethiopian broadcasters and government have interacted. I know that when I try and make things for Kenyan television, even if it's message-driven, I have to pay and put it in the budget to have it broadcast. And so my question would be, do you have to pay the Ethiopians, and where did the funding come from to do all of this work, amazing work?
So, well, the funding is from two places. It's funded partly by DFID and partly by the Nike Foundation. They've collaborated to create Girl Hub, and Girl Hub operates in Ethiopia, Rwanda, and Nigeria, and they're looking to sort of expand. So it's really very well resourced. I think they've decided this is a very, very powerful way to get to a lot of people. And we have a very, very capable, highly skilled team on the ground who are able to speak to government ministers and all kinds of things. And I think the way of doing it is incorporating them to a certain level, not a lot, otherwise you get into all kinds of different problems, but just making sure that what we're doing is aligned with certain policies. So for example, in Ethiopia, it's illegal to advocate for anyone who's not Ethiopian or who is receiving international money. It's illegal to advocate. So we have to walk a very sort of careful line between, which sort of comes down to your question as well about, you know, you can't actively promote certain organisations, services and things like that. But, you know, the government is very progressive in that they've outlawed early marriage. And so that means that under the banner of early marriage, there are lots and lots of things that we can target and look at, and which actually sort of supports what's happening in the country. So under early marriage, you've got domestic violence, you've got reproductive health, you've got a whole host of issues that you can tap into. So, I don't know, does that answer?
Yeah, I think that was very useful. Get in at the right level and work with the country.
Yeah, and have the right people on the team. I think it's really, really important to have. So I live here, I have a family here, and I go over to Ethiopia at key points in the process, and we've really built a team from the ground up over there and been very, very sort of, I don't know, clear about what we want from the team there. And one of them is to make sure that what we're doing isn't going to be in conflict with anything. You know, and now the majority of the team is on the ground there, Ethiopian, very few international consultants. So they have a real understanding of the way everything works over there and what we can and can't do.
But your production values are so high. I can't imagine that.
That's what makes it partly
from Ethiopian filmmakers. That surely there isn't the culture in Ethiopia to produce that production value.
Well, we've been going for 4 years, and we've had a lot of. It's been a real journey on a number of levels. It is very well resourced, which always helps. But we've also, we're sort of, you know, it's similar to what you're saying. You know, it's a mixture of two things. It's not me going over this saying, right, I know how to write, I know how to create a drama, do it this way. It's about saying, okay, who's going to be our writing team? We got the best writers that we could find. Learnt from them, learnt the way what works in Ethiopia, what's popular in Ethiopia. You know, what shows are really resonating with audiences, and using that knowledge coupled with my knowledge about sort of structure and how to tell stories and stuff like that, to really blend the two to make something that's really, really strong. And along the way, there are lots and lots of obstacles because I manage the writing team there. They're fantastic writers. They've written more than I will ever write. They've written hundreds and hundreds of radio episodes, literally hundreds. But for example, the structures over there are such that a writer can write an episode, it goes into production, and it goes out. There is no script editing. There's no redrafting. So when I came in, and we did as well. There's no script writing training over there, even at the universities on the film courses. And so even they've written hundreds and hundreds of things, but have never actually had how to script write. And so what I can bring is, this is how you structure a story, this is how you structure drama, coupled with all of their experience of what works in Ethiopia, you sort of mould that together. But also things like, okay, here's a script, it's a 30-minute script, I get my pen out and do loads of, notes and give it back. And that's a completely new concept on just how to redraft. And some writers don't like that.
A lot of training.
Yeah, and so you sort of, but you just be flexible. You have to be very, very flexible and work with strengths and identify gaps.
Okay, I'm conscious of, one more question. Is there any more questions? Were you wanted to, did you want to say something?
No.
Afterwards.
Oh, afterwards. Okay, all right. So just to finish off, I'm going to ask all our panel to just give us a one-liner, a kind of one answer on what would you see as your biggest challenge in your work. So think on the spot, and I'm going to start at the end of the table. So the biggest challenge. I'm not going to ask you how you solve it, but just what's your biggest challenge that you face in the work that you're doing.
I guess the biggest challenge is to get an understanding of where you're working. Climate changes, customs change, food changes.
Okay.
I guess working with development organizations to also think outside of the box and more creatively in what we can create together.
Okay, thank you. George?
I think distribution and funding, just trying to get more people to watch the films. We've just finished producing a film in Kenya about cerebral palsy, and even just doing the test screening, showed it to a local community that didn't know about the film. And one person said, whenever I see a disabled person, I pity them. But having seen this film, I'm beginning to realise they have their own agenda and their own aims. It's like, okay, well, that's great. So now the aim, the challenge now is just to get as many people as possible to see that and start thinking or, discussing things in that kind of way.
Okay, thank you. Joseph?
Building on the discussion, I'd love to see the measurement of impact refined and really truly understand what is having impact. Is it radio dramas? Is it documentaries? Does engagement lead to impact? I'm not sure we know. I'd love for that to be something we all work together on over the next couple of years.
So the challenge?
Challenge is working on it. Finding
challenge is to do it.
Let's do it. I think we need to really understand, for example, with this film or with Sugar, which does something similar on HIV/AIDS in Nigeria, what impact is that having on the HIV/AIDS epidemic? Is it having a positive one? And is it going beyond the trends that were expected anyway?
Okay, great, thank you. Marissa?
I think our biggest challenge is finding the challenge is not to find people who can deliver on the ground. We've got very, very capable teams on the ground, but you want people who actually believe in the purpose and the mission, and I think if they truly believe in what you're trying to do, if they really want to empower girls, then you get over obstacles and you drive forward constantly despite the challenges which come, constantly. If you don't quite believe in it and it's just a job and it's just then it's not quite as easy. It's not as smooth a road. Well, it's a bumpy road anyway. But if you find people who truly believe in what you're trying to achieve, then it makes it a lot easier.
Okay, thank you. So I want to say thank you to you all for coming. I think this is the first time Sheffield has ever done a session like this, so I really appreciate you coming and supporting our work. Thank you to our amazing panellists who are all doing such fantastic, inspiring, wonderful work. Thank you for sharing it and great clips and putting the time into thinking about it. And we're all around, so come and talk to us and find out more and keep in touch with us. And I think we'd really appreciate that. Oh, I must also say thank you to Josie, who's our producer of this session. Thank you very much.